Hello, everyone. Today's topic is Why Do We Live? Buddha and Master Shinran's advice. Everybody has times when they find themselves sincerely wondering, what is it that we live for? Some ponder the question during their school years, some are struck by the question as working adults, and others end up contemplating the matter once they've reached old age. For some people, the question has been nagging at them for as long as they can remember. The question of why we live especially comes up when we're going through a hard time and wonder what the point of everything is. However, no matter how hard we might search for the answer, it seems that it is nowhere to be found. Some people say we should just focus on finding the little joys in life. While it certainly is good to appreciate the little things, focusing on them doesn't mean we'll never find ourselves bogged down by hardship. And when we are bogged down by hardship, it's easy to start wondering, what am I even living for anyway if I have to suffer all the time like this? And if we're all just going to die in the end, what's the point of being alive in the first place? This question, why do we live, is of fundamental importance for all humanity. So then, in this video, let us hear what Sakyamuni Buddha had to say on this matter, as well as how Master Shinran, the founder of Pure Land Shin Buddhism, tackled the question. Today we will examine these 3 points. 1. The question of how best to live. 2. Life goals. 3. Heizei gojo, completion of life's purpose now in life. Many people think it's no use wondering about the purpose of our lives. They therefore put the issue from their minds and simply focus on how to live as long and comfortable a life as possible. Although we never know how long we actually have to live, the various fields of human endeavor, such as politics, economics, science, and medicine, were established to improve and maintain our longevity and enjoyment. Over the course of human history, the 3 main threats to our survival have been starvation, disease, and war. To this day, starvation remains a serious global problem, with around 9 million people dying of starvation every year, according to the World Food Program. Even so, in the modern era, many countries have managed to achieve levels of food security unseen in previous times. Modern medicine has also ensured that fewer people die from disease. Where it was once common for children to die of tuberculosis or other such diseases before they even reached the age of 10, now vaccinations and the like have made it far rarer for people to die so young. Epidemics and pandemics tend to pose less of a threat now too, which becomes particularly clear if we compare the sheer devastation we suffered in past pandemics to how we are able to deal with pandemics now. The Black Death, for instance, which took place in the 14th century, is estimated to have wiped out around half of the population of Europe, with medicine of the time practically helpless against this plague. During the coronavirus pandemic, however, medical workers managed to produce vaccines within just a year after the virus was first identified in 2019, likely saving the lives of millions. War is also something that used to be far more prevalent and frequent than it is now. While there are numerous ongoing conflicts around the world, with particular focus being given to those in Ukraine and Palestine, many countries today enjoy the unprecedented privilege of long-term peace. Thanks to all these developments, people are now living longer than ever before. Where once the average life expectancy might have only been around 50 years or so, the worldwide average has now become a bit over 70 years, with many countries enjoying averages of 80 years or more. It is even becoming increasingly common for people to live into their 100s. We also enjoy more comforts in modern-day life. Entertainment has become easily accessible on demand, with the current most popular online streaming service offering an ad-supported plan for around $4 to $7, depending on where you are. This gives you access to thousands of TV shows and movies, whenever you want and wherever you happen to be, at a relatively low cost. Many of you probably have memories of being excited to watch your favorite TV show after school, and racing home to make sure you didn't miss it. Alternatively, you might have persuaded your parents to record the show so you could watch it at leisure when you got back, only to end up devastated if it turned out the recording had failed for some reason. Now, though, you don't have to worry about hurrying home for a show or the VC are betraying you. You can just hop onto your favorite streaming service and watch the show anytime you want. You don't even have to wait for the next episode to air anymore, because whole seasons tend to be uploaded at once. This means you can just binge watch the entire thing if you so choose. Clearly, things have become far more convenient than they even were just 20 years ago. In fact, it hasn't even been very long since television became widespread in households. In the early 1950s, less than a century ago, only well-to-do households had TVs, and families could become so captivated by this novel electronic entertainment box that it would make it difficult to get much done. People were both excited and skeptical about how further developments in technology would influence entertainment in the future. Who could have known, however, that there would soon come a time where people would be watching their favorite shows on demand while out and about using small, portable, all-in-one devices that could function as telephones, computers, and televisions. Video games have also seen rapid development since the first home console hit the shelves in the early 1970s, going from the simple yet addictive Pong, which simulates table tennis, to huge, sprawling adventures with complex storylines and jaw-droppingly realistic graphics in the span of mere decades. In this way, humanity's constant desire to find increasingly better ways to live as comfortably as possible has led us to innovation after innovation, transforming our lifestyles and upping our living standards in ways that would have once been beyond imagination. Take someone from even just a century ago into our modern era, and they would surely be wide-eyed at all the conveniences we enjoy now. But does that mean we are now free from suffering? Sadly, no. In life, there is still a vast array of different kinds of suffering that we have to contend with. Sakyamuni Buddha summed these up into the 4 and 8 sufferings: the suffering of living, aging, sickness, and death, the 4 sufferings, and the suffering of separation from the beloved, encountering the despised, not gaining what one seeks, and being of the flesh, 8 sufferings in all. This is a basic outline of all the kinds of suffering that continue to pervade our lives, despite all the comforts we enjoy now. We suffer as a result of having been born and existing. That is the suffering of living. Then, once we have become adults, we find that gradually our hair turns gray or white, our skin wrinkles, and we begin to lose our faculties. This is the suffering of aging. We also have to face a variety of infections and injuries. That is the suffering of illnesses. And despite the fact that we fear death and wish to cling to our lives forever, with each passing day, we move closer and closer to the end of our lives. That is the suffering of death. These are the 4 sufferings. Then Sakyamuni specified 4 further kinds of suffering, which, when added onto the first 4 sufferings, makes a total of 8. In life, we have to part from people and things that we love, which hurts. This is the suffering of separation from the beloved. Conversely, we have to endure being around people and things we hate, like school bullies or nightmare bosses. This is the suffering of encountering the despised. We also cannot always get what we want, and may find ourselves ignored by the object of our affections or unable to break into the career of our dreams. This is the suffering of not gaining what one seeks. Finally, the suffering of being of the flesh sums up all the previous kinds of suffering. No matter what we do, we cannot gain full freedom from the 4 and 8 sufferings. Medical science has come in leaps and bounds since the dawn of humanity, yet that doesn't mean we don't still face disease. In fact, the increased lifespan that modern medicine has blessed us with comes with the downside of having to deal with the suffering of old age for longer, as well as potentially having to deal with dementia and other such debilitating age-related diseases. When the average lifespan was shorter, dementia was something most people didn't even need to worry about, because they were likely to die before ever even having to begin to deal with it. Also, even though we are now living for longer than ever, modern medicine cannot stop us from having to die eventually. Old age, sickness, and death all remain inevitabilities despite the incredible technological and medical progress we have achieved over time. This raises the questions: if we're just going to have to keep suffering no matter what we do, then what exactly is it that we live for? What's the point of putting all this effort into improving our lives if suffering and death are ultimately inescapable? Why keep trying if lasting happiness is forever out of our reach anyway? And when people cannot find real answers to these questions, it is, tragically, all too easy for them to fall into such profound levels of despair that they resort to taking their own lives. How many people today find themselves torn between not wanting to cause pain and trouble for those they care about and desperately wanting to escape their seemingly futile, miserable existence? That is the level of agony that can stem from not knowing what it is that we are living for. But is there anybody in this world who knows without a single doubt what the purpose of life is? Can anybody wholeheartedly say they know why we live? Some might say to this, actually, the reason why a person might end up feeling so empty is that they lack goals in life. All you need to feel fulfilled in life is some proper, firm goals. Certainly, it can help to have something to work towards. There are all sorts of things that might serve as life goals for people, including earning qualifications, starting a business, raising children, contributing positively to the healthcare system, becoming a pastry chef, becoming an astronaut, contributing to disaster recovery efforts, and so on and so forth. All of these are great goals to have, and if you put your heart into working towards them, it will surely make you feel you're doing something worthwhile. But will it make you feel you've accomplished the very thing you were born human for? Will it make you feel you've achieved your ultimate purpose? Well, no. In fact, the sad thing about accomplishing a great goal is that it's actually fairly common for it to be followed by feelings of emptiness. Oh, is that it? In Man and Superman, a drama by Irish playwright and critic Bernard Shaw, we find the line, "There are 2 tragedies in life. One is not to get your heart's desire. The other is to get it." One of life's tragedies is not getting what you want. Once we have a goal, we go after it with all our might, like a runner sprinting as quickly as they can towards the finishing line. If we manage to make good progress, that gives us a sense of fulfillment, excitement, and joy. If, however, the finishing line just always seems to stay out of reach somehow, we become discouraged and going after our goal becomes a chore rather than a joy. Sometimes, no matter how much effort we put in, we make no progress whatsoever and we find ourselves forced to give up. This can be devastating to say the least. This is not to get your heart's desire. A starry-eyed child may dream of someday becoming a famous baseball player, pursue that dream all through school, and end up with an injury that crushes that dream forever. There are countless tales like this, where it is not a lack of talent or effort, but unforeseen circumstances that prevent a person from ever reaching their goal. Not getting your heart's desire like this is tragic indeed. The other tragedy, however, is to get it. Although achieving a goal can be a euphoric experience in the moment, the satisfaction we gain from it does not last, and before long, we may find ourselves deeply disappointed to see that realizing our dream was not nearly as glorious as we had imagined. If we manage to get into our top choice university, we might jump for joy when we hear the news, only for us to find about a month into the semester that university life is really not all we'd hoped it to be. We might even find ourselves wondering what it was that we studied so hard for. If we marry our dream partner, we might feel like we're on top of the world on our wedding day, only for the relationship to quickly turn sour afterwards. Communication breaks down, arguments become a daily occurrence, and the gulf between us and our spouse grows ever wider. A mother who devotes herself to raising her child with tender, loving care may suddenly find herself at a complete loss when that child grows up and moves out. Suffering from empty nest syndrome, her love for her now adult child does not end, yet she finds herself practically forgotten about, rarely receiving phone calls and even more rarely receiving visits. She is left only with what feels like a gaping hole inside her heart. So even when things initially go well and we achieve our goals, we can still end up feeling empty and disappointed when reality does not live up to our expectations. That can then lead us down a dark path. In June 2024, Mizuhara Ippei, the former interpreter for Japanese baseball star Ohtani Shohei, pleaded guilty to charges of fraudulently using the star's bank account to pay off his gambling debts. Getting a job as an interpreter is not an easy thing to accomplish. It is said that of all the many people who dream of becoming an interpreter in the future, only a handful actually make it. Mizuhara was said to be particularly good at his job, and even managed to end up working for a celebrity. It must have been so exciting to have achieved that level of success in his chosen field, and yet even that was not enough to bring true, lasting satisfaction. Now all of that success has been lost to a gambling addiction. Although achieving a goal feels great at first, before long, a sense of hollowness creeps in. Many a time, the process will have occupied so much of our time and focus that once we finally got to that end point, we hardly know what to do with ourselves. We might even begin to miss the process, feeling that working towards our goal was actually more fulfilling than achieving it in the end. But then the urge overtakes us to start on something new, and so we decide on our next goal. Finding something new to put our energy into helps us once again escape our suffering. We might then end up experiencing the pain of failing to achieve our goal, or the initial high of success followed by the low of emptiness. Then we move on to the next goal, succeed or fail, then the next goal, succeed or fail, and so on and so forth. Whether we succeed or fail, however, we ultimately keep returning to suffering again and again and again and again, a cycle that appears to be without end. So, is that all there is to life? Is there nothing more in store for us than enduring illness, growing old, and dying after endlessly chasing fleeting happiness? When at last I came to the peak that I had thought would surely be the last, I turned my eyes to the way beyond. Mountain piled on mountain. Again and again, we struggle up mountains thinking, if I can just get over this one, I'll finally find peace and happiness. Once we finally reach the top, however, we see to our dismay that there are yet more mountains for us to cross up ahead. This is the endless repetition that we find ourselves stuck in. Eventually, having crossed goodness knows how many mountains, we are sure to run out of energy and perish. What then are we doing this all for? Why exactly do we live? That is the most important question for all humanity. Not how we can live for longer, or how we can live in more comfort, but why we live, what purpose we are living to achieve. Thankfully, the answer can be found in Buddhism. How then did the Buddha and Master Shinran answer this fundamental question for all humanity? First, let us hear what Buddha taught. In the heavens and on earth, only we have a single sacred mission. In the heavens and on earth means all throughout this universe, and only we have a single sacred mission means only we humans have one sole virtuous purpose to achieve. Life is not just about striving to extend our lives and keep inventing increasingly greater comforts until we die. There is a real purpose to our fragile, fleeting lives, a wonderful, virtuous purpose that we must hurry to accomplish while we are still alive. Not only that, but this purpose is the same for all people. Everyone has the very same purpose, regardless of race, nationality, age, or any other such thing. Life has a precious, precious purpose that must be achieved now. This is what Sakyamuni Buddha was telling us when he said, in the heavens and on earth, only we have a single sacred mission. He then dedicated his lifetime to conveying that purpose, and all that he taught was recorded in writing as the complete sutras, which make up a total of a whopping 7,000 or more volumes. Master Shinran summed up what Buddha taught for us into the short phrase Heizei gojo. What then does Heizei gojo mean? First of all, Heizei means the present life or now while alive. Going gojo refers to the great undertaking of life. In other words, the thing that we were born to do, the purpose of life, which is to be liberated from suffering and attain true, undying happiness. Finally, jo and gojo means completion. So, in short, Heizei gojo can be translated as completion of life's purpose now in life. Master Shinran was telling us that life has a single ultimate purpose and that it is possible to accomplish that purpose while we are still alive. We don't have to wait until after death to find the lasting peace and joy that we seek. We can gain it now in life. We must therefore hurry to achieve it and at last grasp brilliant, shining happiness beyond that which we have ever known. That is the meaning of Heizei gojo, or completion of life's purpose now in life. Master Shinran dedicated his entire life to teaching Heizei gojo, and so it is his signature teaching. Or it would be if it were still being widely taught. Sadly, in Master Shinran's native Japan, although the term Heizei gojo is well known, it is commonly used with a completely mistaken meaning. It has been watered down to mean one's everyday actions, so you're more likely to hear people gleefully saying nonsense like, "Today's weather is good because of your Heizei gojo," than speaking of anything to do with completion of life's ultimate purpose in the now. Truly, it is difficult to encounter the true Buddhist teachings as distortions are widespread. This is why it is so important for those who know the real meaning of Heizei gojo to clarify what it actually conveys, that life has a purpose and that it is possible to accomplish it now, while we are alive. This is Master Shinran's most important teaching, one that he put his life on the line to convey because it tells us that there is a reason why we live. We were born to break free from suffering and attain everlasting happiness in the now. It is because of this that this YouTube channel is dedicated to explaining Master Shinran's teaching of Heizei gojo, completion of life's purpose now in life, from a variety of different angles. There is nothing more important or profound than the matter of life's true purpose, so it's not something that can be fully understood after watching just one single video. To hear more, then why don't you subscribe to this channel so you'll know when we release new videos, and check out our past videos on Buddhism too. Thank you for watching today's video.